right, my friends. Well, that was a lot of good stuff, and the good times are just keeping on here because we are going to move into our very next session, and I am so excited that I get to introduce you all to this wonderful expert presenter here with us from the Zerto crew. Very happy to introduce Rick Sloan, Senior Partner Director at Zerto, powered by Keep It. Rick, I am so happy to welcome you to the MegaCast today. We've got a lot of great info ahead. I know you want to save some time for questions at the end, so Rick, I'm going to step back and hand things on over to you. Take it away.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it. And it looks like Texas is cornering the market with a lot of the prizes. So
yeah,
I love
they're knocking it out of the park today, Rick.
Exactly. They'll have to come visit us in our U.S. headquarters up in Dallas. So good connection into Texas. Exactly. Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Rick Sloan. I head up actually global alliances here for Keep It and Zerto. And what we're going to talk about here today is the Zerto backup for SaaS that's powered by Keep It. So let's get started. With the product itself, for the Zerto backup for SaaS, we are talking about understanding the why. Why is this important? Where are we heading to? What is important for all of you as running your IT teams? And where Wayne Gretzky has said, skate to where the puck is going, not to where it's been. So understanding the future and being able to bring your IT department into a safe and secure environment is half the challenge that you all face every single day. So you've all heard an awful lot of cloud. For 20 years now, we've been talking about cloud, its evolution, moving into multi-cloud, hybrid cloud. But some of the questions you also have to ask is, everything is migrating into the cloud. What about digital sovereignty? Where does your data really live? What's powering the hardware? AI has become a buzzword all throughout the consumer space, not just in our industry. The machine learning. The bottom line is cloud is always changing, and how it impacts your environment every year is what's making the difference. And that's where we start to talk about the SaaS applications themselves. And so with the SaaS applications, they are growing by leaps and bounds. The average organization is now having 80 to 120 applications. In the middle, 80% of the study is workplace transition. And it grew from last year from about 49% in proportion of apps being SaaS apps from last year to next year will be 72%. So in a 3-year window, you're seeing the growth of SaaS applications. Why are they so important? And they're helping reduce costs, IT staff, and all of the attributes that come along with it. Cyber spending is tied into these SaaS applications. Somehow, accidental deletions, ransomware attacks, cyber spending is up. It's astonishing to see that top right box, that next year the estimated spend will be over $10 trillion to help protect all of the SaaS applications, the cloud environments. And how do you all take that to be able to then propagate it into your environment of being able to keep your environment safe and secure? So what you need to be careful of is, what is the hardest thing than defending yourself against ransomware? Having to go to your CEO, your board, your customers, that you didn't protect yourself from an attack. What could you have done that's different? John Zangardi has said, you're going to be a victim of ransomware attack. It's not admitting defeat, it's preparing success. And how do you all prepare to be able to protect yourself? Everybody gets attacked. What you're trying to prevent is that business impacting event that takes place. And so with that, there's a whole string of bad actors. It's the Shakespearean concept of to pay or not to pay. It becomes a business decision. When we see and we read a lot of the articles that propagate out throughout the marketplace, it's always, how do we protect ourselves? It's not if, it's when. And so being able to have the right platform, being able to have the right partner to help protect your data, to make sure your data recovery is there, to make sure that your IT staff can handle all that's being handled, is the most important piece. And bad actors are kind of smart. They take a look at a company's organizations. They see what their revenues are. And when they attack an organization, it's usually about 1% to 2% is what they claim that they want for ransom. So on average, that comes to about $750,000 was the average payment during last year. But they're not done. What about the actual intrinsic value internally? The loss of the downtime, the resources that are needed, the additional expenses that come along with paying the ransomware on top of paying the ransomware. Well, those totaled more into the $4.5 million range. And again, when you start to look at what is the true average cost to rectify the impact, the downtime, the people, the opportunity cost, the customers, the loss of customers, being able to protect yourself is the number one game that everybody is going after. And so the cost of disruption is extremely important. And so you can also see that no matter what your size organization, from small to medium to large enterprise, everybody gets affected. And having immutable backups, having your ability to be able to protect yourself so that this doesn't affect you. These stats decrease. Your average business disruption is almost a month. And so being able to be proactive and preventative from any of these attacks is what the ultimate goal is. And if you are attacked, the crazy part is on average in all industries across the board, companies only get about 60% of their data back. Where's the other 40%? What's the other 40%? How important is it in order for you to continue to run your business? And so if you're being impacted by how the business runs, your ultimate goal is, if you're attacked, how do you prevent that final step? How do you prevent not having to hire the negotiator, not having to worry about what percentage you get back, but more importantly, protecting the data that you have and being able to recover without that final step? Now, we've all seen many of these cases as we've talked about in the marketplace and the various attacks that have happened out there. A few years ago, we had the Sony hack with personnel records, salaries. There's been school hacks with student records, a lot of healthcare, unfortunately, and even with HIPAA compliances, the sensitive images, the details of these organizations that just didn't protect themselves in time. But not all data loss comes from the outside. We talk about bad actors. We talk about the criminals, but really, who are they? Many times they are out of the nation states. They are the hacktivists. But let's address for a minute the insiders. The insiders that could reside in an organization, that could be paid off by somebody on the outside to say, hey, can you help me turn over some of your records? Here's what we'll pay you to do that. And so even though they're all criminal based, you also face those accidental deletions. There is nobody to blame. It just happened. And again, how do we go through protecting our SaaS data that resides in the cloud to make sure that it's all recoverable? So as I've mentioned, there's human error. Almost a third of the time, you can see it's just an accidental deletion. How do you recover it? There was an IT blunder that you can see up onto the screen where an IT analyst went to delete a user's Teams account and accidentally deleted 145,000 users' Teams accounts. It was unrecoverable. They called Microsoft. Microsoft said, "No, I'm really sorry. We own the infrastructure. This is a shared responsibility model. And in the shared responsibility model, we'll make sure your infrastructure is up and running, but you need to be responsible for the data." And then we have that disgruntled employee that we just mentioned. 1,200 users. They decided on their way out the door, I'm going to unleash this. And during that event, as they were walking themselves out the door, they deleted 1,200 Microsoft 365 accounts. All of their data is gone. Company didn't have a backup. They didn't have a way to rebuild it. So they had to manually go back and figure out, how do they rebuild all this data? Obviously, fines and charges and jail time ended up in that particular person's situation. But these can be preventative. They can be prevented. And how do you do that? And so where this comes from is even IT leaders many times question, are their backups really safe? Is their backups what it's supposed to be? If you're infected, if you have to recover a file, a user, or an entire system restore, how do you restore that in a safe and secure environment? So if it's not recoverable, is it really a backup? Or is it just another production and data that's sitting there? And so for those of you that have been in this industry for a while, all of this backup used to be on-prem. And when everything was on-prem, there was a rule. Well, that rule still remains in effect. It's still valid today. It's the 3-2-1 rule. You have 3 copies in 2 different locations, at least one of them being off-site. Why is it okay today that all because you're putting your SaaS data in the cloud, that you're only given by many SaaS vendors 1 copy in your public cloud, in the same public cloud that your actual data resides in? And so if your backup is sitting in the same cloud, you're still being exposed that if the public cloud goes down for a period of time, your loss of the backup data will also go down for that period of time. But it still comes back to, there's 1 copy. How is that acceptable? And so as you move forward, there's areas that really need to be looked at. And so as you have data governance, infrastructure, and determining how this will be acceptable for the risk that you have within your organization, that's where you need to understand, how do you make change? How do you have a structure that addresses important nuances, backing up and recovering your SaaS data, having a disaster recovery plan, being able to move into the whole AI world that we're all living in right now? And how do you also deal with a shortage of resources and talent within an IT department as well? And so we've taken a very different approach, an approach that Gartner looks at us as kind of being a disruptor in the marketplace. And so we took the approach more from a platform standpoint. And so the Zerto backup for SaaS that's powered by Keep It is keeping it future-proof, keep it protected, and keep it effortless. And so the approach of protecting your SaaS applications become much greater. It mitigating the risks around cyber threats, mitigating the costs and the non-compliance, and being able to have a purpose built for the cloud with the broadest support of SaaS applications for scalability, for flexibility, and to secure all of your SaaS applications. And so being able to adopt in new SaaS applications, as we mentioned earlier, they're only going to continue to grow year over year. Keeping your backups in a secure environment, having multiple copies of your backups, but also being able to save resources and making it easy to use is areas that you really need to understand the why. And so what we're showing you in each geography, as I've mentioned, we've taken a little different approach. We have our own independent private cloud, fully safe, fully secure, ISO 27001, ISE 3402 for SOC 2 compliance, PCI, HIPAA, all the certifications you would expect. And in each geography, we have 2 data centers. We own the stack. We have no sub-processors. Again, unlike some other SaaS vendors that are in the marketplace, we own the stack. Not having sub-processors makes it a lot safer. Having AES 256-bit encryption for both in transit and at rest are important features. Here's the neat part. In our clouds, each geography has 2 data centers. They're both active. In each of those data centers is a second copy. So you remember a couple of slides ago, I mentioned that 3-2-1 rule of how it used to be on-prem? With the Zerto backup for SaaS, we actually overachieve to a 4-2-1 rule because every customer has 4 copies all stored in an immutable format in 2 different data centers and being off-site. And so now your ability of being able to protect all your data, all your users, become a lot more efficient. For those of you that may be internationally, we comply to GDPR very strongly. We have features in our platform like right to be forgotten, where you have the ability to comply to GDPR, but still have the right to forget certain data should it need to be forgotten. A plethora of SaaS applications, very strong in the Microsoft suite, Microsoft 365, Power BI, Azure DevOps, Dynamics 365. And the biggest one and most secure is Entra ID, used to be known as Azure Active Directory. In addition to Zendesk, Google Workspace, Salesforce, and through our protocol engine on our platform, our ability now to start bringing in a lot more SaaS applications in the future. And so there's a part that we separate out on our data plane versus our control plane. Well, what does that really mean? The data plane is where all the data resides. Your Microsoft 365 data, Salesforce, Google Workspace, Dynamics, all reside onto the data plane. The control plane is where your identities live. That's something that we've spearheaded here in the industry, or the undeniable leader leading the charge of helping organizations protect all of their user information around Entra ID. And Entra ID are the profiles that each and every person need in order to gain access to their data. This is what bad actors are going after, because those are the keys to the kingdom. That's how you get the crown jewels. And so the challenge is protecting the control plane. Now, some of you may say, oh, we have all of our Entra IDs sitting on-prem. We're good. But are you? Because Microsoft doesn't support recovery from on-prem into Azure objects. And many of the functionalities that reside in individuals' Entra IDs are actually features of Azure objects. Control access policy, BitLocker keys, Microsoft Intune. These are all features of Azure objects. And so having a safe and secure backup that is recoverable is extremely important to protect your users from gaining access to your system, to be able to get access to all of their metadata and all of their data. Now, there's a couple of companies out there that have started introducing Entra ID support. But as you can see, not all SaaS backup and recovery solutions are created equal, and nor is the support. So it's easy to check a box and say, sure, we have support for Entra ID. But what does that really mean when you really start to dive into it? What functionalities can they do? Can they help you with hard deletes versus soft deletes? Can they help protect recovery and actually show you that if somebody went in accidentally or on purpose and made changes, that you have the ability to see the differences over time and recover and restore back to how it was from the beginning? And so when you look at the purpose-built environment with the Zerto backup for SaaS that's powered by Keepit, there's functionality that was built in our platform for the cloud, purpose-built and safe and secure. From the platform itself, using a Merkle tree architecture, which is a blockchain-like technology, so that when your backup is complete, you can't go back and make changes. Having no upfront costs, having it scalable, and being, again, a disruptor in the marketplace where it's basically a price per licensed user. So it helps with predictability. And getting 4 copies of your backup, all stored in an immutable format. So as you can see, there's some key areas of where the value really starts to come into play. And I've talked a bunch about the security aspect and the single sign-on and multi-factor authentication and the certifications and the HIPAA and the PCI and the ISA 3402, the simplicity of management, the scalability. On the cost area, there are no hidden costs. We help control your destiny of your financial spend. It's a price per active user. We don't charge for departed users. So when you have an individual that leaves your organization, you'll be able to shut down that Microsoft 365 license immediately because you'll already have a safe and secure backup, and you don't pay for that. And it stays in the retention based on how long you've sent the retention policy for that user. So your existing employees can still see their files that user left behind, and then go reuse that license with your new hire. It makes it very cost effective. CFOs actually love that one feature alone because of the total cost of ownership of what it does to an organization. It makes predictable pricing. And having predictive pricing keeps it very simple for your budgets. And as I've mentioned, there's no extra cost for ingress or egress. There is no storage costs. With the Enterprise Unlimited licenses for the Zerto backup for SaaS, it has unlimited retention up to 99 years. You as the customer set the retention. And it has unlimited data. And so it makes the solution extremely predictive from a pricing model. So much so that Forrester actually put together a total economic impact model, utilizing 5 customers, taking where their savings are, what their infrastructure looks like, and giving them the ability for it to pay back in their system in less than 6 months. This makes it a safe and secure and very affordable model from Zerto. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. And Jess, I'll see if there's any time for some questions as well.
Well, you know what, Rick? We're right at the end of time here, which is such a bummer because what an incredible presentation. I do want to tell you, you got a couple of high fives from the audience here. I think that just knocked that out of the park. And Rick, I'm hoping maybe we can get you to stick around a little bit and answer some of the questions over live chat, since we'll have to kind of keep going. We're also going to make sure that we get all of the questions asked today sent on to your team. So you will have a chance to follow up with all of them over email. I'm going to move over to the poll right now and get the audience to let us know what additional information you would all like to get about the Zerto solution. So obviously, Rick gave us a ton of great information, lots more to dig into and explore here. So whatever would be helpful for you, wherever you're at in this research journey, click on the screen and let Zerto know how they can follow up with you. Rick, I'm not going to let you go just yet because I do have one question I want to make sure we get to, which is, what would you recommend to anyone in our audience who is really excited about Zerto, pumped up, wants to learn a little bit more or get started? What is step number 1 to getting to know Zerto a little bit better?
Awesome. Great question. My recommendation is go out to Zerto.com. It's an HPE company. And in Zerto.com, you can click on either for a demo, a trial, or more information. We have a plethora of account executives for companies of all sizes. Set up an appointment, set up a time, and they can help go through some of the deep dives and again, set up demos. And if need be, through the whole sales process where a proof of concept makes sense, they can totally help you with that as well.
Amazing. Well, Rick, as I said, a really incredible presentation. I myself was on the edge of my seat, and I really appreciated a lot of the context you gave us and kind of reframing some of these conversations a bit. So certainly a lot of thought-provoking conversation here and much more to be had. I hope that you will get to carry on and continue getting to know our audience a little bit. I know we've got a lot of questions coming in, so we'll make sure you get those. Rick, I hope we get to see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Jess. Pleasure being here. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time. Again, I'm Rick Sloan. I appreciate all your time and being here and listening to us today.